And guys, as you know, I always love doing collaborations. I love doing everything. This is no exception. Welcome back to another great night of collaboration with a great YouTuber. But before we start the introductions, repping Miami tonight, everybody. We signed Jimmy Butler as well. So we got Brooklyn and Miami, my two loving diehard team. I'm a diehard Brooklyn fan and Miami Heat fan, so we got to rep it tonight. But let's get off basketball. Let's focus on tech. So tonight I am joined by a very special YouTuber. I always say all YouTubers are special, but this one really comes to mind as special, as something special, in the words of Stephen A. Smith. He's a great YouTuber, great person. Been talking with him for a while. Been working this out. His name is Blue Eye Tech. I don't know if I'm allowed to say your actual name, but if you want
me to...
you're
good. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. So it's James. His real name is James. Great YouTuber. I watch a couple of his videos, and he makes some really good stuff, guys. He's an original creator. I'm all for originality, so what better way to talk about tech with somebody else that's also in the original field? So, James, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So tonight we got a little stacked up tonight. So we're going to cover 2 Apple stories and 2 Android to keep it fair. On the Apple side, we're going to focus on the impact of Johnny Ives and the future from Apple from this point forward. And on the Android side, we'll be discussing the new AirDrop type feature for Android and also discuss more details of the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Pro. So let's get right into it. So first story up on the chopping block, as I said, is the impact of Johnny Ives retiring. Now, if you guys don't know already, Johnny Ives is officially out as Apple's chief designer, and he's pretty much moving on to his own company. Now, while he's not officially 100% done with Apple, because he still has ties with Apple in his new company, he's still no doubt in charge or works for them anymore. Now, a lot of people in the media have been kind of spreading news about how Johnny Ives' impact leaving will determine Apple's future in the long run. So tonight I want to talk about his impact on leaving. So first thing I want to ask you is this. When you heard the news that Johnny Ives was retiring or leaving Apple, what was going through your mind?
Well, so I thought it was actually pretty insane because actually Johnny Ives has actually been with Apple since 1992. So to know that since he's leaving now, after being with them for like about good 30 years going on here, and just to see that he's kind of leaving out of the blue. Now, obviously, from news reports and things like that, if you read up what's going on, he's obviously, this is not something that's kind of happened like that. It's been definitely planned. He's starting his own company, and with that company, obviously, Apple is going to be one of his accounts with that company. So this is obviously something that's planned, and knowing that since Apple is going to be like kind of with him on that, obviously means that he has their support, which is kind of cool. Knowing he's leaving on good terms, from what it sounds like.
Yes, they are on good terms, and from what I understand, also with this partnership that they're doing, Apple will be taking stuff. So they're a supplier to his company. He will be supplying for them. So whatever he's going to create. Now, there have been a lot of negativity going around, mostly with some of my subscribers and also in the media, also disregarding his design. So I feel like I want to take tonight also with his impact to discuss some of the good stuff and also some of the bad stuff. Because you can't just address just one. You have to accept both. So let's start off with the good. I think the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Johnny Ives is his videos that he makes when he talks about the iPhones. Anytime you watch a September video, you hear Johnny Ives describe the iPhone, and I don't know for sure if he's going to stop doing that, but we can only assume it probably isn't going to happen because he's not with Apple anymore. He didn't design the iPhone, so he can't say that this is my product or describe it. So I don't know how that's going to work out. What do you think?
I personally think that he's not going to continue doing that, though. Since he won't be with Apple, he will not be behind the designs of the product. So it doesn't make much sense, at least in my opinion, for him to continue kind of narrating the features of the product itself. They probably will get somebody to replace him eventually. Whoever that person is definitely has some big shoes to fill. He's been doing this for such a long time. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, he won't be continuing on with making the speeches about what the iPhone or iPad or the next device will have.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's going to be sad because, you hear his name, you hear him talk. It's something special because he sounds like, this is why I also defend Johnny Ives, because he is the last of Steve Jobs' era of Apple. He was one of the last few people that supported Jobs' philosophy. Keep out of the media, let your work impact, and also just believing in the ways that he really believed it. And for me, I always believe that kind of philosophy is what got him to be so legendary in the field. Because if you know anything about Johnny Ives, he's not in the media. He never goes out. He never talks to public. He never wants to be public. He wants to keep himself closed behind closed doors. So that's one thing I would say. Another thing that comes to mind with Johnny Ives is the iMac. And I think at this point, the iMac is going to always be revolutionary. I think that the iMac design, not even the all-in-one style, the G3 and the G4, the color iMacs, the iMac, I forgot which one we were thinking of. The modern iMac. So every edition of the iMac is recognizable, and it was designed by him. Even though Steve Jobs sold it well, the designer-in-chief obviously is Johnny Ives. So another thing with the iMacs, do you think that the new ones, because of the modern look, and a lot of people do say because of the bezels, if, let's say, a new iMac comes out, do you think that is going to kind of take over the new Johnny Ives like iconic look? Will that be as iconic as what Johnny Ives probably did?
Well, I definitely think that when there is a new design that will come out past the Johnny Ives era of iMacs and just any product that comes out in the future, it definitely will be in the beginning stages compared to Johnny Ives's models of devices, whether it's the iMac, iPhone, whatever it is. And I think as time goes on, gradually we'll start seeing less and less comparisons, and it'll kind of whoever takes over without kind of their device. But definitely year 1 through, I would say, at least year 5, we'll start seeing comparisons to the Johnny Ives products. Definitely,
exactly. I agree.
And we'll probably get a lot of people nitpicking over like, well, if Johnny Ives was still with Apple, he'd probably do this, not this, and we'll get a lot of nitpicking critiques about the new products versus what the old products look like.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. I think the comparisons are going to come. I don't think that that's going to be, it's not going to be an easy thing to say, but also it's expected. And you know what's funny is on the website for Apple leaderships, they still have Johnny Ives as the chief design officer, so they never refreshed the news, so they still haven't announced. But one thing I did want to say, I was going to say earlier, I hope for the love of God they do not put this man in charge, Dan Riccio. He's responsible for the iPad Pro's bending. He was the one that's designed, and if you put him, like, so far my iPad Pro is fine, so I'm actually working on the review as we speak, but if that thing bends and your excuse is that, oh, it's normal, there's no way in hell I would want you running my hardware division or design division.
No, because I'm sorry though, and that's the thing. That's my biggest problem with the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro, honestly, it's a great looking product. I would love to have one though, but the problem I have with that is how flimsy it is. I've actually gone into a store, actually looked at the iPad Pro display, and actually kind of give it a little bit of a bend. I wasn't gonna obviously but you could tell there's some give there. And if you watch some of the videos on YouTube of people bending the iPad Pros, you can notice on either side of the iPad there are some weak points there where the magnetic charging point is for the Apple Pencil, and where the microphone is on the opposite side. That's where the weak point is, where it bends. And that is my problem with it. You have such a great product though, but it is so delicate and so flimsy. You're afraid to almost use it in a sense.
Yeah,
and that's where I would and that's where I would go with one of the other. In my personal opinion, I would personally go with one of the other iPad models just because they're more durable. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at these iPads, when you look at any device, not just through Apple or Android or any kind of device you look at, you got to think of practicality. Yeah, it's nice that they have all these bells and whistles though, but does it actually do what you need to do? Mm-hmm. And especially when the iPad Pros are being shipped bent. That's the thing, like you were saying too. Thankfully yours wasn't bent, but there are people out there that actually got theirs brand new, still sealed, and then when they open up, it's bent. That's not normal. They're not shipping the iPad Pro with a curved display. That wasn't a part of the. That wasn't part of the feature list.
It's not a feature. It's like, what are you doing? And then they come out, and this guy especially. That's why I say I don't want him to be the takeover for Johnny Ives, because he says that that's normal. Now, the problem with that is simple. It's not normal. You're paying over $800 plus on a tablet. You're paying for a premium device. The least you can get is premium care. They say they won't cover it. They want you to pay a full price to replace an iPad Pro. And I'm telling you right now, to anybody out there watching this, sue Apple so they can create a repair program for this, or a recall program. Because I mean, look, I'm fine with the iPad Pro. I probably won't see it bend because I won't be using it as these YouTubers do. I will take it to class. I'll have it in a special sleeve, so it probably won't be as. And I definitely won't be putting it on my back. I'll put it in the middle of my backpack so it doesn't get any benders or anything. But still, you're paying top dollars for ultimately what is a piece of technology that you're expecting top 10 service and also top 10 specs. There should be no casualties coming out of the box. There should be none of that. And when you come out and make it sound like you don't care, why would anybody want to buy it from that point forward?
Exactly. Like you were saying earlier, like you're not going to throw it in your bag and things like that, though. But I used to have an iPad before, and the product should be durable enough where you don't have to even think about that. Where you can just throw it in your bag and take it to school, do whatever you need, take it to work, do whatever you need to do with it. And that thought of like, oh, is my iPad going to be bent before I get to school just because I threw it in my bag like I would with any other tablet or phone or any device? That shouldn't even be a thought process. And the fact that they won't even... that's the thing, too, is I understand that, like, hey, when you make products, sometimes features, or not even features, I'm sorry, sometimes, like, things will just happen, whether there's a fault of the device. And I understand that kind of stuff happens, but I think it makes it a lot better when the company actually owns up to the mistake and be like, hey, look, we screwed up. Let's fix the problem. Let's, like, take everybody's iPads back, fix it, give you guys a new one, do whatever it is they need to do. But don't try to play it off like, oh yeah, no, you're good, it's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. Like, exactly. No, and people are not stupid. People are gonna know, like, no, that's you guys just lying and trying to make it sound like everything's great when it's not.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I mean, you shouldn't the thought process of like, oh, I'm not gonna throw my bag, so I'm not gonna worry about it. That shouldn't even be a thought.
You shouldn't even think about like risk of bending because okay. So I was showing you this one. This is my mom's iPad. It died while we were doing the video, but this thing it has no flux. This thing is sturdy, and even with the case on, the chassis is thick enough. I get the idea is you want a thin iPad, but again, you can't compromise the safety of the product over design. And I think that's another thing Apple needs to work on with Johnny Ives is leaving. Because we'll get into some negatives, but we got to keep going because we're focusing too heavily on the iPad. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But the two most famous products I think Johnny Ives will be remembered for, whether you love it or hate the design, the Apple Watch and the iPhone. Now, I was going to say that the iPhone 11 is technically Johnny Ives' last design because he technically designed that camera housing, which again is the dumbest camera housing I have ever seen for a motherfucking phone. I have seen Huawei do it, but here's the difference. Huawei actually made it look better. Notice how Huawei actually knew what to do with a triple camera setup? Apple, they had a rumored design where it would be in the center of the phone and the LED flash would be around one of the cameras. That right there is innovation. You could get the LED flash and the camera all in the same hole?
Yeah.
I guess they just said, too much work. But anyway, besides that though, do you think the iPhone 11 will be credited to Johnny Ives?
I think it will, only because it is the last iPhone that he has worked on before he left. So I think some people are going to kind of cut it some slack a little bit because it's going to be the last one that he's worked on. I think if it wasn't the last one he worked on, people might go a little bit harder on it. And I think that, definitely if it was the new phone from a new designer that's taking Johnny Ives' place, they would just rip it to shreds. So I think we're going to get a mix about it. I think we're going to get people out there who are going to give honest opinions about it. People are going to go easy on it because, hey, this last one Johnny Ives worked on, he's done such a great job in the past 30 years. And we're going to get a mix of both. And people are just going to hate on it just because they're going to hate on it.
I guess you're right. I mean, I won't lie, that camera housing is ugly, but I mean, again, when has anybody cared about the back of a phone? You look at the front. Now, we already know the iPhone 11 is not going to have any major features. It'll be the next year model after that with Ming Chi Kuo saying 5G, probably a little less bezel at the notch. So I don't really focus too much on the 11. I'm focusing on the 11 Max. 11S Max anyway, so I'm looking to 11S, so I don't even care about the iPhone 11. I could go a year without even getting another phone, because these phones hold up pretty well. Everyone always likes to say, everyone bashes Apple. I'll give Apple credit where credit is due. When you buy an Apple product, depending on, and oh yeah, you see the Face ID, that's pretty cool, but still, When you buy an Apple product, I can't believe this. I'm a tech YouTuber, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But when you buy an Apple product, generally they last you more than 4 years. Depends. I've had an iPhone 5 from 2000 and I would say 13 all the way to 2017. So that's 5 years. And I will tell you, it only slowed down because of the software. If the software was still optimized to how it is now, I probably would have still been on the 5. That's how long it lasts. So I give Apple some credit. When you buy their products, they definitely do last a long time, only if you don't break it. And now the Apple Watch. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to just agree with you on that. Like, I think that's the thing. Is like, I think the Apple makes a product that we can actually stay on it long enough where you don't have to upgrade year to year or every 2 years. Like, before I got on my iPhone, before I have my 10R right here, like, I was on the iPhone 7. The only reason I switched over to that is only because my iPhone 7 was running very sluggish. But I've had it for years, the same way you had yours. I mean, so, but yeah, no, now you're saying on to the Apple Watch?
No, I was saying that was the last product that's considered the most famous of the modern Johnny Ives. Even the Apple Park, we could talk about that, but I think we're going to focus on tech for this. The Apple Watch, look, everybody always claims that a square watch is not fashionable. Well, that design is the #1 selling watch in the world, and you could say Apple may be bloating that, but look at the numbers, look at the figures. Apple Watch topped Rolex. They topped Movado. They topped Hublot. They topped some of the biggest names in the game. And Johnny Ives is known for designing watches. He had a few original designs. They were circular, obviously, but when he started designing them, they were focused on a premium end. But then they took a step back because then they're like, you know what, let's focus more on health. So I think that is where I think the positives stop with Johnny Ives. Because then you look at the negatives, because we're going to get right into it, because there's not much you can say about the Apple Watch. It's just a great watch. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, it's perfect. Honestly, my personal opinion.
I agree too. I don't use it like as a phone replacement, but it's good because I can text from it. I can play my music when I'm in the gym. But now we gotta get to the negatives. Now the negatives with Johnny Ives' design is, let's say, MacBook Pro faulty keyboards, the thermal throttlings because of that thin, low profile. It causes the air not to be as much, so you can cool the system faster. Again, like I said, the bending iPad Pro, while he's not fully to blame, and Dan Riccio, that guy who was also in this, Johnny Ives still designed it. Then you got the iPhone 6 bending. I think that was where it all started, really, was with the iPhone 6 bending. Then you've got the, I'm trying to remember one more. Maybe you could name one.
I'm just trying to recollect me. The iPhone 6 definitely was the first of the whole bend gate situation, though, because I know that the metal in of itself was not thick enough. I know that's what they fixed in the 6S. They kind of reinforced that and I believe they changed the antenna lines for the 6S as well, which helped with the stability, or not with help with the overall of the metal there, so it wouldn't bend. But yeah, 6 was the first bend gate. Came back with the iPad Pro with the whole bending situation. I'm just trying to think of any other issues. Like, I'll probably think of something after this is over, but I can't really think of any. I know the big ones were definitely like the bending and things like that.
I think that's really where Johnny Ives' design the fault, because I look at other websites like Apple Insiders, and they all list down. I'm going to read you a few. They talk about Johnny Ives' worst design. I just think of the problems that came. The butterfly keyboards, in my opinion, are just the dumbest keyboards. I mean, they're usable, but they're not something I would say they're the best things ever. I think, and the Magic Mouse, I also think that's a pretty bad design. The Magic Mouse, too, because I don't like that design at all. That's really weird for me anyway. But everyone also argues the original iMac was a bad design. I don't think so. That's really what got Apple into the cult, with the colors of the iMac. I mean, that's just me. And also, another thing that people say is the second generation smart keyboard Folio. I actually disagree there, because I think that the Folio keyboard is actually better because it covers the back, so you have a little more profile. Maybe the keyboards probably could have been better. Somebody wrote the third generation iPod Shuffle. I never owned it, so I can't really say. And that's really it. Those are what Apple Insider chief designers are saying is the worst from Johnny Ives. Now, out of those lists, I can probably say they didn't talk about the new stuff. So, what would you think, out of everything we've listed, what would you think are some of the negative stuff that Johnny Ives has done?
I would say the keyboard, just how the keyboard issue we were recently having though, where just some of the keys were just weren't working, they were sticking, and that's the issue though. But in that situation, I believe they were actually taking care of that, weren't they? Weren't they actually fixing the keyboards?
Yeah,
In
they
that
were.
situation? Yeah.
They did that because of all the lawsuits.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the thing right there is the fact that you have keyboards breaking and they're getting it fixed. They're actually taking the right approach to it. So that's where I almost asked myself, it's like, well, they could do that with their keyboards. Why can't they do it with the iPad Pro? I mean, it's two different products, yes, but they're both having issues and they're from the same company. So why can't they take care of the keyboards and not the iPads?
That's what I'm saying.
And I feel like I said, no company's perfect. Every company makes mistakes.
Exactly.
It's how you handle those mistakes that reflect on how you treat your customer base. And in my opinion, though, the way they're handling the keyboard situation, the right move. The way they're handling the iPad, terrible move.
And I'll be real with you. I've told everyone that, truthfully, I dislike Apple in certain aspects. Like, even though I've talked so much crap about them, I do make some fair points. I will stick with them at the end of the day because that's just easier to use than having to go over to Android, although I will try Android eventually. My issue with Apple is the way they treat their consumers and also how they treat independent repair groups. The reason I say they treat their consumers is because your consumers are trusting you. They trust you enough to give you that much money for their products. And when things like that happen, you would expect to get tip-top service because you're paying so much money, including Apple Care. I go to these stores and they don't even treat your customers with any respect or dignity that you invested thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's where I'm like, Apple, you better go back to basics, to square one with the customer service in your store because it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think they built themselves up as a luxury brand with like everything they have, and I think that's kind of got in their head a little bit. I think they kind of have this idea like, oh, we don't need to have that. They could treat the customer base a little bit, like, poorly. I guess is the best to basically
you
put
could
it.
say, I guess you could say poorly because I've been to the Apple Store very recently, and I'll be honest with you. And look, I don't give a shit if Apple's watching. The one on Staten Island, I will vote it as the worst. Those people in there are fucking scumbags. Every one of them walks around with a macho attitude like, oh, I work for Apple. I got a status to show off. And when you have an issue, they just don't want to help you. They want you to have an issue so that way they can get the money from Apple for the service repair.
Exactly. And I think, and that's another thing, too. It's like that also reflects the thing on store to store as well, though. Because I used to, when I lived in the Bay Area here in California, I personally felt the one over in Walnut Creek was actually a really good store. But then I've actually been to other stores, too, it was complete crap. And I'm like, well, your customer service is shit. I'm sorry to say. But that's pretty much, that boils down to what it is. And it varies from store to store, though. But Apple needs to also realize their stores also reflect on how people view them as a company. So, I mean, these are Apple employees. Regardless if you work at the Genius Bar or if you work right alongside with Tim Cook, you're an employee of Apple. And how you behave reflects on how people view your company.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I really couldn't have put it. That is a perfect way to say it. That is really the perfect way to say it. Like, honestly, that's completely true. Because even if you think you work in a small position at the Apple Store, you don't realize that small position can have a big impact on somebody when making a purchase decision, when getting help with customer service. And there are some good people there. I'm not going to say all of them are bad, especially I'm talking about the one on my store. I went to the one in New Jersey. I felt like I was royalty there. Let me explain. So I took in my MacBook Pro charger. I had it over a year. I had Apple Care and stuff, but it has a year factory warranty. The cable fried. So I go to the store. I'm like, hey, man, I don't have warranty. My cable's fried. Could you help me out? Bro, I'm not going to give away who did it, and I'm not going to give away the store location, but I'm going to tell you right now, they charge you $20 to replace the cable. The guy took it, gave me a new one for free, and he said, don't worry about the charge. Like, there are some good people at Apple. Like, that's the thing. Like, okay, I can understand, like, if you're past warranty, you have to pay. But there's some good, decent people in this world that'll give you no trouble. That'll just swap the cable. Because it's a cable. And I think...
See what he was probably thinking right there is he could do that and he could be really cool with you. And not only by doing that, that actually gives you an impression of that specific store and be like, hey, guess what? I guarantee you're going to go right back to the store and go buy something from them at a later date or something like that. He's actually building that rapport with you. And basically gaining an extra customer. Because if he could be crappy, if he could just treat you as any other store would, then he's not going to leave a good impression, though. But he knows if he actually goes the extra mile for you, he just earned another customer for that specific store.
Exactly. And not on top of that, but the store gets a good plus, too. Because then they'll be like, oh, they treat their customers good. Now, I'm not saying they do this for everybody, but, like, the fact that you could get something out of that place, because if you go in the Apple Store, the minimum you have to pay now is like $100 for something. I'm probably wrong with that assumption, but still, it's expensive. But leading into all what we're talking about leads into our second topic, and we're making pretty good time here. So our second topic is now the current status of Apple. Now, as I've said in the past, Tim Cook's Apple has finally started. When he announced the streaming services and Apple focusing on services, that was where I said that is officially Tim Cook's Apple. Because that was where we finally saw what Tim Cook envisions Apple to be in his eyes. He doesn't want to focus too heavily on the software and hardware and the tech. He wants to get something that can make the best money. And that's monthly subscription services. And I don't even understand the credit card system, but you know what? They want to be a piggy bank, let them be a piggy bank. But now this raises some very, very big questions. Because Apple is living by a philosophy right now that every year they're losing money, and if they figure we raise the price to make up for the lost profits, we'll get more money. But it only shows it's been driving customers away. Because even if you get somebody to pay for that iPad Pro, you'll still lose money because not enough people bought it to break even for the last year's missed profits. So my question is, what does Apple do? Like, what is their status at this point? Not only with Johnny Ives leaving, but at the current flow of what we've seen of Apple. Because WWDC passed, we saw that they were listening with the software. But when it comes to hardware, tech, and pricing, they're never going to listen. And especially that fucking $1,000 stand that even had the biggest Apple sheep going, what? So my question is, what is the current status of Apple in light of all this?
God, honestly, that's a tough one, though, because I think it's a mixed bag. Like you're just saying, though, people actually I personally like all the features you're going to get with iOS 13. So on the software side of things, I think it's awesome. I love the fact that I'm going to be able to actually sync up my gaming controller to my phone, play all that kind of stuff, dark mode. Everything looks awesome as far as the software side of things go. But when it comes to hardware, I think that's where they kind of rub people the wrong way. Yeah, with a $1,000 stand. And I think I feel sorry for the guy who had to go announce the $1,000 stand, because you have to basically go out there and say, like, yeah, the stand for your monitor that usually comes with a monitor you buy on any other company, we're going to charge you an extra $1,000 for it. With the way they should have worded it, honestly, my personal opinion. Now, we're not taking away the fact that it is a $1,000 stand, but they should have said, I believe it was a $5,000 monitor or
$6,000. $5,000 monitor.
Yeah. It's what they should have said. They should have put both the stand and the monitor together and said, this is a $6,000 monitor. But what they should have said is, but it could be $5,000 if you take away the stand. Letting people think, hey, $6,000 is the set price for this. But hey, if you want to take something away to make it cheaper, take away the stand, and then now it's $5,000. You're still saying the stand is $1,000, but at least you can make it. You're wording it in such a way where it doesn't register to the customer base that, oh, this is a separate product. No, you're basically, it's all the way you phrase it, and I think the way they phrased it, the way that it was worded at WWDC was bad, and I feel sorry for that guy though, because he had to be the one to say, yeah, this is a $1,000 stand. So
you notice how he stopped like halfway because the audience was so loud; they were like gobbling all around.
Oh man!
Everybody was like, "What's going on here?" And he was like, "And it'll be shipping in It'll be shipping in September." I was like, dude, you couldn't even finish, because that's how many people, like, that was the first time, in my opinion, I think that was the first time where Apple fans truly saw an overpriced product for an overpriced charge for something you're paying. Because all that it is just a hinge with a magnet. Now, even the most diehard Apple fan cannot defend this pricing for a stand. Now, like you said, what you just said, I think that's something that Steve Jobs would have done. Now, I never like to say that. I never want to keep saying what Steve Jobs would do, but that's what Steve Jobs was known for, marketing. He was known for selling you. He could sell you a piece of brick and say Apple made it because he was good at how he sold it. Look at how he presented everything. He made it sound so intuitive because at that time, nobody knew much about it, but he was able to make the dullest thing become so advanced. He would have done what you said. Our standard price is $6,000. However, if you don't want to pay for the stand, we have a model that takes away the stand. You still get a good stand for $5,000. That would have been something that Jobs would have done, because Jobs knew how to do sales pitch. He knew how to talk to the consumer. Now, keep in mind, this monitor we're talking about is a monitor that's not for the average consumer, unless, of course, you're willing to dish out $5,000. But if you're going to dish out $5,000, just get an iMac Pro. You'll have the 5K display, the internals. You'll get some good specs. So that's the only thing. Now, I will say this. This monitor and this computer that it goes for, the Mac Pro, is for a specific user, and that's the Pro users. So everybody complaining about how overpriced the Mac Pro is, 2 words: shut up. It's not for you. Move on. Go buy a Mac Mini. Buy an iMac. This is not for you. That's all I've got to say about that. But getting back to the status of Apple, here's the negative aspect. Is they believe in this philosophy that if we keep raising the price every year, like I said, that we will make back money that we lost. Only problem is that they did that with the iPhone from last year. You say, okay, they kept the price of the original, but they went the other one $100 up. Now you got the XR, that's $750, which again, I'm not too big of that price. I think $699 would have been fine. But again, Apple has their ways. You pay the Apple tax. The thing is that they didn't do so well on iPhone sales, even though the XR was the best-selling smartphone. They're still losing money from next year, which causes them to start reproducing older models from last year. The 10, the 8 Plus, although I don't really hear much about the 8, but mostly the 10. So this philosophy of raising the price and upcharging, I don't think is going to work. I don't know how you feel, but I don't think it's going to work, because it'll just keep pushing the customers away instead of drawing them in.
Well, I think with the customer base, I think what Apple needs to show the customer base is that they can have these high price tags, but they need to actually have the product, the software, the features to back it up. If you basically make incremental changes but make it $1,000, $2,000, whatever the price is going to be, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, people need to know that they're actually getting their money's worth for the product. I mean, and the fact that, and now that we're talking about the state of Apple and everything, this actually also, I just remembered about AirPower. Remember how that whole product?
Yeah, you know what's funny? Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I actually got something over here I want to show you. So, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
If you guys don't know, AirPower, I've always been a big advocate for this charger. So when AirPower was announced, it took Apple 2 years. And this is where I finally got to see something was wrong with Apple, because they just couldn't master a triple charger. Everyone's looking at this new one, Air Unleashed, which is basically just a ripoff. You're going to pay $95 for a charger that's not even Qi certified. You're going to tell the customers to pay $95? Get this. The XVIDIA triple charger charges 2 devices. You get your slow charge, you get your fast charge, you get your Apple Watch for Apple users. And guess how much this thing costs? $30 to $40. So things like that, they've been able to master. Like other companies you probably never heard of. XVIDIA, though, they're Qi compatible, they're Qi certified, they got all the certifications. I still use it. It's a great charger. It solves a problem, and I paid so little for it, but it does a great job. The thing is that Apple try to do this way where software works with the pad. Now, they obviously said that it overheated because they couldn't get it to cool. My only thing is, they're trying to focus on the slim design. I don't think anybody would have cared if you made it this thicker to cool it off. I think the problem with Apple is they're trying to shoot for the stars. They're trying to shoot for something that people just don't give a rat's ass for, if you ask me.
I completely agree with that. That's the thing too. Is the fact that I think that Apple tries to shoot for the moon and they don't make compromises. That's the thing too. Is the fact with AirPower, the reason why it was overheating is there's too many coils in such a small space. They could have done one or two things. They could either made it thicker, allowing, like you were just saying, allowing it to cool down, or they could have actually done what, like the product you just showed us right there, is the fact that they could have just made 3 coils in there, one designated for the Apple Watch, the other 2 designated for your phone and your AirPods and whatnot, and they'd have been fine. They didn't need to. I understand the convenience of being able to just drop your AirPods or Apple Watch anywhere on the mat, and that's fine and all, but it wasn't needed. They could have just came out with 3 coils, one designated for each product, and been fine, and not had all that. Instead of going back to the drawing board and trying to make compromises in the product, they just felt like, yeah, we're done with it. We're just gonna cancel part, which is crazy in of itself, because Apple's not known for canceling products. They're known for coming out with them, for better or worse. They could have easily just canceled any products. Exactly. They could have canceled the iPad for bending, because they had to come up with the testing of some kind of that the chassis was flawed in some kind of way on the iPad, but they didn't. They still came out with it, and they handled it poorly, but they still handle it.
Yeah.
In a way of some kind, I guess the only way I could put it though. But with AirPower, for some reason, I don't know what it is about that product. They were like, yeah, we're just going to call it quits.
Yeah.
And it was so close, and obviously it was close enough to base coming out. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
But it was so close to coming out that actually in the AirPods 2 box, there was still actually a picture of AirPower on the box.
Yeah.
When you look at it. So obviously they must have had some kind of idea that it was going to be coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
If they were already printing out pictures of it on a product that was coming out.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what's funny is they still sell them. They still have boxes produced with AirPower on it. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. But Apple says they couldn't do it. Here's a company called SliceCharge Pro, an independent group, and they were able to make a 6-coil design charger, the world's first 6-coil designed wireless charger with OPSO MF5 certified Apple Watch charger. While they couldn't flush that in, it kept designated. But you made a charger that can have 6 coils on it, so no matter where you put the phone, it'll charge. What Apple wanted to do, why didn't you just put the coils in this 8x7 configuration? So you have 8 coils on the top, and then you put 7 on the bottom, get 2 fans to heat it up. Obviously, it'll be thick, but you still get to cool it off. That's a lot of coils. Or even do a 6x5. 6 on the top, 5 on the bottom. Would have still been hot, but you still get more fans to get in there. See, Apple thought it was just too impossible. And like you said, they're not known for quitting. Remember the iPhone 4S? The white color was giving them issues. They didn't cancel it. They just delayed it. And when it was delayed, they finally mastered it, and they're like, we got it going. But with AirPower, they completely scrapped the project. That means that beautiful technology that they wanted to do, the concept, I remember when they unveiled the iPhone 10, when they showed how the Mac interacts with the charging. That software integration is lost, and that could have been awesome. Your iPhone will display the battery percentage for your AirPods, the wireless charging case, your Apple Watch, and your phone, and if you have a smart battery case, even the smart battery case. That stuff they scrapped. I really hope, because there's still some code shown in iOS 12, although they probably scrapped it by now. That beautiful, that's what I say, that stuff should not be scrapped. Make a partnership with Belkin or anybody to use a wireless charger that allows that kind of technology. Even Xperia, if you were to work with them, although I highly doubt they'll ever do that. But because it allows 3 devices to be charged, you put your iPhone on one side and it'll work with the other ones through software integration. But of course,
I think what they should have done is obviously they should have come out and said hey, we're having these issues with the AirPower. Give us a little more time. It's going to come out a little bit later than we anticipated, though, but we're going to be researching how we can actually fix our issues. Obviously, you don't want to be coming out with a product that's overheating, because last thing you want is a fire hazard in all your customers' homes. Yeah. You definitely don't want to have that. That'd be a major issue, though. But just completely cancel it, and I don't know. Like I said, I think when it comes to the state of Apple now, it's a mixed bag. You can't really say it's one way or the other, though, because they have great products and they also have bad products too. It's mixed, and definitely with their software, I think it's fantastic, especially with iOS 13 coming out. I'm excited for it. I can't wait.
Oh yeah,
but
I'm excited for it too.
Hardware wise,
I know what you mean. I gotcha. So yeah, we've talked a lot about Apple, and I think we got what we needed to say. Now it's time to switch our gears to Android, because we can't just leave it all Apple. We got to be fair. And also, I will admire Android is pretty cool. So I'm going to try to do this video. So guys, I want to also disclaim that I'm going on vacation. So this video may come out late. So these news you're hearing are just what's happening now, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to push it out. But I leave tomorrow, so if it comes out a little later, I apologize. But anyway. So basically, let's get into Android. So, as you know, Android has been trying to kind of keep their king status, because I think Android has got the king. Because even though iOS may be great, integrated, and optimized, Android has always had some things that iOS never had for years. Group FaceTime, the swiping gesture on the keyboard, dark mode for that matter. So, to me, I feel like Android's always going to be king for that, because they always have features. And I'll be real with you, I love Google Assistant. I think Google Assistant is the best assistant on the planet. Even Alexa. But even then, we all know about the privacy issues. But still, if you could get past it, they work better than you'd expect. But apparently there's something they haven't been able to master. And that is what Apple has, that they've had for a while. And they've tried to do this, but it did not work. It was AirDrop for iOS. Now, AirDrop is such a useful useful thing, I think, in my opinion. I use AirDrop with everything. When sending my videos from my phone to the computer to edit, and they're all in 4K, 60 frames a second, AirDropped in 5 minutes. That's awesome. Well, apparently Android may finally be able to get that because, according to 9 to 5 Google, yes, 9 to 5 Max literally made a spin-off called 9 to 5 Googles. There's a feature that was noted in Android that's called exclusive, but it's called Fast Share. Now, what this does is it allows you to link up with other devices of Android, not being limited, not just to Google Pixel, but also allowing you to share things from one device to another like AirDrop does. Now, originally they had a different version of this, and I believe the alternative was Android Beam, and it didn't work out as well. However, with some people saying that they've been using it and it works just like AirDrop, this could be a big change for Android users and also for iOS users debating on making a switch, because AirDrop has been a lot of reasons why people don't want to leave Apple. They love AirDrop. But now that you can get it on Android, maybe the tables turn. So I want to hear, have you heard about it? What do you think about it?
I honestly have not heard about this AirDrop feature coming to Android, though. But I will say this, though. I mean, knowing that it is coming to Android, I think it's kind of awesome, though, because I'm always encouraging. I don't really do the whole fanboy thing of Apple versus thing like that, though. I totally encourage if people on the Android side get some of the features that Apple has, and vice versa, great. Because I feel that more competition there is out there, then the consumers win. Basically, if there's a competitor to Apple, then Apple is more driven to make a better product to beat the competitors to benefit the customer, and vice versa when it comes to Android as well. Same thing with gaming consoles. I don't really go like, oh, PlayStation versus Xbox. I think they're both great systems. Obviously, they'll go like same thing. Any product out there is my point. Is competition is good because the consumer wins in that regard.
Exactly. You're 100% right. And you know what I also like, though, about, like, I never have any bias. I may talk a lot of crap, but that doesn't mean I'm going to tell the other person to stay away or anything. I always like to, you've watched me for a while, you know, I like to remain unbiased. I like to look at both sides and try to meet in the middle to make some compromises and also to work with both sides. But in this case, with Android getting this feature, I think it will be a game changer. I'm glad that they're getting it because, I'll be honest with you, Android users need things like this for their ecosystem if they want to build their own ecosystem. And I think with this feature, it'll not only make Android something that's an alternative to AirDrop, but it'll probably make people now consider Android a little more. You want to try it out without losing some features. Now everybody complains about iMessage and the green bubble, but come on, it's just text messages. Like, there's really no big difference. Although I will give it credit, though, yeah. iMessage is incredible when it comes to games and emoji and stuff. But even then, Android's already had some of that stuff in a few of their apps and stuff. So, case in point, I think that this feature is going to really kick butt. I have to censor at this point. I can't keep cursing. I can curse all night, but then I'll lose some thread. But anyway, and also saying in this that although it doesn't feel exactly like AirDrop, because even though it's in its starting phase, because you have to be close to the device. Versus with AirDrop, you could probably be maybe in another room. Although they are saying once you get the hang of it, it does act like AirDrop. So it's interesting to see where this goes and how it's compatible. Not only with Androids, will it be compatible with Windows computers? Obviously, it'll be compatible with the Chromebooks. But will it be compatible, like I said, with Windows, Mac? Because Google is not afraid to open the doors to other companies. They love to do that stuff. So
I definitely think opening the door to other companies and kind of merging and kind of collaborating with other companies definitely works great as well. I've always thought to myself that like being able to do kind of cross-platform kind of things, like if you were to use an Android on a Windows computer or a Mac. I mean, in terms of this AirDrop feature, that'd be great. I mean, be it like somebody who has an Android being able to AirDrop something onto a Mac computer. It means they wouldn't have to it means they wouldn't be like, oh, I have a Mac, so I can't use that feature. They have the doors open to them, pick whatever phone they want, because they can use the same feature regardless of what phone they're on.
Exactly. So I think it'll be great for Android users, and I think that this will make a good addition, because if I do decide to go to Android, give them a shot, at least I'll know I'll have a feature. And last news of the day before we got to get going, is the Samsung. We're going to focus again back on Samsung. We're going to talk about the Galaxy Note 10 Pro. Now, I did a whole video dedicated to the Note 10 Pro where I discussed the design, where I said I am a big fan of it and I'm looking forward to this phone. But we got some more news. Apparently, according to Android Police, the Galaxy Note 10 and the Note 10 Pro are going to be the first. I've already said this before, but they're stressing it now because now people are starting to be like, wait a minute, why is there two? There's going to be the first Note series to have a big display and an even bigger display. Now, I'm a little confused right there because, first of all, the Note was always known for having a bigger display. The Note was always known for being bigger than the Galaxy lineup by a few inches. It was known to be a business phone. It has your stylus, it can go with decks and everything. But the thing that people are flipping out about with this second model is that it has 5G and it's going to have an even bigger display. Now, I don't know how big they're going to go. The biggest you can go right now for a Samsung phone is 6.7 inches. You're almost at the 7-inch mark. Do you really need 7 inches in phone screen? That's why I'm actually happy with Apple's 6.5 inch. I think 6.5 inch is more than enough. I don't think 6.7 because you're almost at a tablet size. So, I'm sorry, but like, I'm a little confused why you gotta make two Note phones if the whole purpose of the Note was to be a bigger phone than the Galaxy. Now you're gonna have a Note Pro that's bigger than the Note. That's just like, I don't get it. But before we even talk about that, and before you answer what you think of that idea of it too, you probably have known about the Notes. You saw the leaks. You probably saw my video where I talked about the design. I want to hear your thoughts.
When it comes to screen size, I don't get it. I like you said earlier, I think that at least for me, like the perfect size is my 10R. I feel that's a good screen size for me. And when it comes to, I don't know, get me, because what do you think about it was the Amazon, I think the Amazon Fire or whatever, I think they have like a 7-inch screen.
Something like that, yeah.
And that's considered a tablet. And like when we're getting phone screens, like my question is when does the screen size from a phone end and a tablet begin? Because we're getting to a point where phones are becoming just as big as the smaller end tablets. Mm-hmm. And I feel like screen real estate is nice. I like having a bigger screen. The bigger screen on my phone I currently have now is great, but it gets to the point where it's like, okay, we're getting kind of ridiculous here with the screen sizes.
Yeah, and I'll be real with you, like, I think like that was what wasn't that what Samsung was trying to do with the Galaxy Fold, was to make a tablet and a phone 2 in 1, make something portable even portable, and look how that turned out.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan. The Fold was an interesting idea. Honestly, it's nice. I like seeing innovation when it comes to tech, though. But it, like I said in my video on it, though, it is a first-gen product. With any first-gen product, you are going to see kind of the ugly side of things until they refine things, change things around, make things better.
Exactly.
I personally, obviously, when it was folded in half, it looked ridiculous. It had that little gap there. I wasn't a big fan of it though. But the product in itself was an interesting product, and having two devices in one. But the only problem I do have with the folding phone is if you have your tablet and your phone separately, like how most people do it now. One breaks, you still have the other one as a backup. If your phone/tablet breaks, guess what? You're out 2 devices.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what the funny thing is, like, I think personally with foldable phones, I think the concept is flawed. Not the actual technology. I think the concept is flawed. The way that they're trying to make this work. The concept of this idea that you could take a 2-in-1 with such a thing, I think that concept is flawed. And it's been proven because the Mate 10X, whatever you want to call that, Huawei's version is not coming out anytime soon. Galaxy's pretty much just said, we're done. Now they've got phones doing the clamshell design. That is like a step back in evolution. If I ever see a phone, like, okay, the only exception to that, you know what a clamshell design is, right? Like a flip phone, like a flip. So the only way I can see that working is if it was intended to be a flip phone, and it doesn't have a 6-point-something inch. It'd have to be a 5-inch screen, maybe even 4.5. But still, if you make a flip phone, that would work because there are some people that like that kind of stuff, whether we agree with it or not, and that would work better. Now, there was some rumored stuff going around with that design, and I looked at it and I was like, this ain't a step forward, this is a step back. Because that's what everybody was using. Flip phones, we came so far with the tablet, at least the tablet version, you were taking a tablet and a phone, putting it into one. Now you're putting a flip phone and a smartphone into one. Like, that's going backwards, not forward.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, like, I think that there is definitely like a consumer base for it. I mean, like, I know there are definitely people out there complaining about the new iPod Touch. Like, and I think it kind of falls in this. Granted, the flip phone thing might be a little more confusing to some people, but I think there is a consumer base out there for it. So I don't know. Even though maybe not, in my personal opinion, it might be a small base, but it's still out there, I guess. Otherwise, why would they be making it?
exactly. And also, just as a side note, I want to do a bonus real fast before we get going. We actually had very good timing on this. I actually really enjoyed this. The bonus thing I was going to talk about was the Samsung Galaxy Home. Now, way back, year and a half almost, they unveiled something called the Samsung Galaxy Home. What that was is basically a smart speaker, and it basically just had Bixby enabled. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Bixby because I think if you're going to try to do what Apple did, at least have your own platform. Don't have Android be your provider, which is where I'll talk about in a sec. But we haven't heard anything about it. We haven't heard any news. I even looked it up. Like, I can show you what comes up. The Samsung Galaxy Home. I don't know if you've heard of it while I look it up. Have you heard of it?
No, I gotta say, I'm trying to recall. I don't remember hearing about the Galaxy Home.
It was this.
Okay, I have not seen that. That is very interesting.
It's supposed to be pretty much like the HomePod, although it does have a different design. Everyone complained about the HomePod, but honestly, looking at the Galaxy Home, you really can't say it's that. Now, the idea was that it would have a subwoofer and some tweet. It would do a 360-degree sound, basically enabled with smart things, which is Samsung's smart home. Because I'll be real with you, Samsung's smart accessories are pretty good. If they can only master their assistants, that'd be better. But still, the sound would come from AKG, which I've been using Samsung Galaxy Buds, and I use their AKG N700NC headphones. Also, by the way, AKG is a piece of shit company because they don't like small YouTubers, by the way, so that's just a side thing. But still, I'm not going to let that bother me because I'm going to still buy their stuff because I actually like the sound quality. But the idea was that this whole thing was made by AKG. The sound came from them 100%. No tuning, woofers, tweeters. The way it worked was they were going to have 3 mid-range and high-range speaker tuned by them, but also provided by them. Then you would have a subwoofer at the base. With Apple, you have a woofer and 7 tweeters around it, all acoustically tuned for the low, mids, and high-frequency ranges. Now, it was announced in August, and for a whole year, we haven't heard anything. We haven't heard any pricing. So my question is this. Should they really pursue a Bixby smart speaker? Like, do you really even want to pursue anything that has to do with Bixby?
No, I wouldn't. From what I've heard about Bixby and just things in general, I mean, people just don't care for it. I mean, like, I know they put the Bixby button on some of their phones, Android phones now, and people are just like, we're not going to use the button because why even use Bixby?
Exactly. Yeah.
It seems like Bixby, from what I've personally heard, and I don't have a lot of like hands-on experience using Bixby though, but from what I've seen and heard, it seems like that they try to push Bixby on people. And people just don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, and listen, they say that the speaker is going to come out within the third quarter in 2019, but we're in the third quarter, and that was said a month ago. So I don't know what the delay is. I don't know why they're delaying it. Maybe they're just experimenting with it more. But personally, if it was me, I would not have Bixby in that thing. Like, I would personally, if it was me. I mean, I get it. Look, Bixby is their smart assistant. If you wanted to push Bixby, you would have had to have created your own software. There's no way in hell you're going to push people to use your service if Google Assistant is enabled in that phone. Once Google Assistant's there, you're pretty much done. But the thing is that the Assistant is known for sounding like a robot. You can't work on her voice. You've opened it up to developers, but even then, developers don't even want to work with it. And then you make a speaker that could probably sound pretty amazing from what I hear, and you put a stupid assistant, because everyone talks shit about Siri. Say what you want about Siri, but she's more reliable. And I'll be real with you, she's honestly got some potential to grow, because they got that guy from Google. He already made her sound better in iOS 13. I'm on beta. Sounds like a human at this point. It sounds like Cortana from Halo. That's how humanistic it's getting.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like people used to like to talk so much crap about Siri though, and how bad Siri is though. And when your smart assistant is actually worse than Siri, and you're not even, and like you said, Siri is improving. Now I don't think Siri is as good as like something like Amazon Alexa and
Absolutely,
things like that. Though I personally always thought if Amazon and Apple were able to work together on something and they were to scrap Siri and just put Amazon Alexa on iPhones, that'd be awesome in my opinion. I would love that in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Because I don't see Siri get it. But either way though, when your smart assistant is actually worse than the smart assistant that most people talk crap about,
mm-hmm.
and there's no signs of it being changed any kind of way and staying the same. It doesn't say anything good for that speaker if that's what you're going to go with.
Exactly. Now, everyone made a big fuss about that with the HomePod. While the HomePod is the best sounding smart speaker in the market right now, there's no question. I mean, if you want to deny it, just go check out the Sonos. I've done my audio test. I tell people how I do my audio test. I have either a mannequin dummy for headphones, or I take 2 range microphones and transmit the data back to my computer. I've tested the Google Home Max. I've tested the Amazon Echo Plus. I've tested the Sonos Home 1, the next generation version. I've tested HomePod. HomePod replicated the low, mids, and highs with that bass in there, which we know Apple focuses on bass just like their company Beats, but still, they hit all 3 notes in perfect timing. So it was tuned perfectly because of the 7 tweeters at the bottom. So, in my view, you may have a good sounding speaker, but your system has to back it up. Now, Siri is reliable, I'll give it that, when it comes to certain things. But when it comes to the other things, the other companies have got it nailed. Alexa, Google, they've got it nailed. But the thing that baffles me, the thing that baffles me is just that they're trying to push Bixby on an Android phone. And Android is known for Google Assistant. Wouldn't you think the smartest thing to do is make your own software? Because they have their own software. It's called Dex. Samsung Dex. And Dex is actually pretty cool. I've used it. That could be Samsung's own software, although it probably is powered by Android. But if you were to create something, your own software, your own OS, because you've got a Galaxy App Store. So if you were to make your own apps and make your own software, you can then push Bixby. Then you can make an argument that Bixby is for Samsung OS or whatever. I mean, I don't know how you feel. You let me know. You think I'm wrong? I mean, let me know.
No. I mean, this is what I kind of personally feel on, though, when it comes to, because since everybody likes to compare Android and Apple all the time, though, so I'm just going to make another comparison here. I think when it comes to the operating system and things like that and smart assistants, I think they need to make one consistent operating system, one consistent smart assistant to go across the board with all Android phones. Same way that look, love it or hate it, Siri is across every single phone. And I think they need to have something like that for Android. Like, you got Bixby, you got Google Assistant, you got all these different things that go into Android. And yeah, there are some really great Android phones out there, but Android in a way, though, kind of becomes very confusing when you have all these different things. Like, oh, that phone has this feature, or that phone has a smart system, this one has this one over here, but this one can do this and this one can do that. There's so many different things there. And it can get confusing to the consumer base. But if you simplify things a little bit, still allow it to have these great features, but make things work smoothly across the entire ecosystem, then maybe people will be more likely to adopt the Android side of things. I feel like it's almost like you're going to a buffet here with Android, and there's just so much to pick from. Mm-hmm. You just don't know where to start. Where with Android or with Apple, on the other hand, though, things are kind of laid out really neatly in front of you. It's very user friendly, and people are more likely to go in that regard. So I think when it comes to Android, there needs to be a little more consistency and a little more fluidity when it comes to their ecosystem.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And last thing before we close the show, I want to bring up that last thing you said, consistency stuff. Look, I always tell everybody the tech community is a dumpster fire because Android fanboys always like to argue with Apple fanboys about this and that, and Apple fanboys try to think they know everything about iOS. Like, let me just say this. I've said this many times. If somebody likes iOS, and if they like Android, why you argue with them? Just let them enjoy what they want. I don't see no issue if you like something, even if it's overpriced or anything. What does it matter to you? You're not them. They just like something you may not like. And to iOS fanboys, if you're going to argue and say iOS is better, my only thing is, calm down. Stop while you're ahead. Just stop. It may be the most smooth and maybe the most optimized, but it's lacking on features. And to all my Android fanboys that argue with them, I got this. I got this. I know how to deal with them. And to the Android fanboys that like to argue with iOS users about how you're better, it's better to keep your mouth shut than to prove that you're dumber than talking. That's some saying I heard from somebody. Basically saying it's better off to just keep quiet and enjoy what you want without having to keep bloating about it and then look like a jackass. So, to those sides, stop bashing other people just for what they like. That's really all I can say. And you think?
I completely agree. I mean, like, that's the thing too. Is like, well, face it. Like, when it comes to what the features Apple has, most cases, Android had it first. So Apple users technically like the features even before it even came to Apple. They just like it even more now because it's on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like things like being able to swipe and all that kind of stuff, swipe to text and all that kind of stuff. We're just happy that it finally came to our phone, though. But I don't know. It's one of those kind of things where Android typically has it first. Apple gets it second.
Exactly, and everybody steals from each other, so that's all you need to know. Everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody steals from everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, that's going to do it for the show. I got to say, if it weren't late, I probably would have been more energetic because I am still a little hyped up, but I got to say this was really fun. It was very entertaining. We had some good discussions. I know we didn't really have too much debates. I usually like to do things. I was a little rushed on this because of vacation, but listen, man, I want to thank you for taking your time out. Thank you for making this video with me. I usually let my guests, when they come on, have a few minutes to talk about their channel. I completely forgot to do that for you, so I'm going to let this moment, I'm going to give you the next few minutes to describe yourself, describe your channel, and if you want to close it, anything, closing remarks, go right ahead.
As said in the beginning, I'm James at Blue Eye Tech. I am a tech channel. I talk about gaming news, tech news, that kind of stuff. So pretty much anything gaming related, I will be downloading, like how you said earlier, you have the beta on your phone. I'll be downloading the beta on my phone, kind of updating people what kind of features that are coming with the beta as well. My last video I recently did, I compared the Skullcandy Indie wireless earbuds to the Apple AirPods. And so if you guys want to know if you guys can find a cheap budget alternative to the Apple AirPods, definitely check out that video. If you guys have any kind of ideas for videos you guys like to see in the future, definitely let me know in the comment section below on my channel as well. And that's pretty much it, yeah. So just like to review and talk about the latest in tech, and that's it.
All right, and now everybody that's watching this, I will leave a link in the description. Also, you can check his channel out. And also, what he doesn't know is I've added him to my YouTube family list where you can check out people that are part of who I collaborate and also are talking with. I would like to introduce you to my YouTube family because you guys, I know I say family is a strong word, but I also consider them very good friends and close friends. You're a very nice person. I want to add you in there if it's okay with you. Just want to know.
No, totally cool. Fine with me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So that's going to do it. So guys, thank you for watching. Again, please definitely check him out. Great YouTuber, great content all around. Link will be in the description. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you dislike the video, hit the dislike button. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching and peace.